Game of the day, it's going to be on beautiful sandy Miramar. We've been staying up towards the north today, but we've been seeing a lot of southern and eastern circles. Let's hope maybe a little bit more of a centered trend continues, because I believe a lot of the Shoot to Kill fans would absolutely love that. But I know you've been talking about wanting some evil circles. Where you want it to go, Godspeed?
Oh, I want this bad boy to end on Los Higos, dude. If I'm being honest, I want this to shift all the way south again. Another even plane, though. I mean, these guys have been. I'd say the plane paths for Miramar haven't been too wild or wacky. Most of these teams have been able to go where they want. I don't think. It's funny. I believe I was talking to Poro the other day about it. You know, outside of the cast, when we were animalizing. It seems like the early game, as far as the drops, tend to not be as big of an impact as far as like how these teams operate, you know, so to speak, as much as it was like, you know, last year or the year before. Would you agree with that?
It's a very important talking point, because sometimes people might contest or try to figure out, but usually a lot of the times whenever, let's say, multiple teams want Picado, we see that get settled inside of scrims. It's only very rare that we see teams, like whenever we start getting to an international point, being like, I still want this spot and I'm going to fight you for it.
Sure. I mean, it matters for rotations too, right? Don't get me wrong. Obviously, a team that's in Picado is going to have better rotations for the most part, all around, as a team that, you know, loots all the way up in Campo. But realistically, I feel like the meta has really come down to decision making and rotations, and what compounds or positions these teams are splitting. Right, is choosing the right compound. Obviously, there is a little bit of guesstimation that's involved, but the consistency teams that stay on top, like the Oaths, like the STKs, like the Exodus, these guys that are surviving a really, really long time, they're generally making the same plays as far as the practices with how they're scouting ahead, how they're moving forward, how they're approaching certain teams, and I think that's what is really going to lend to the longevity of the newer teams coming up. You know, the guys that are maybe on the bottom looking to improve their game. That's going to help them the most, so to speak.
Well, here, you kind of alluded to something that I don't think that we get a chance to really talk about, so maybe we'll get a little bit quieter of a Miramar than we got in the last game at the beginning. You mentioned splits being very, very important. As a player that's had to play in these type of events, what's something that like viewers can take home so that way they can go, oh, when should I run a 2-2 split? When should I set up? And like, what's the mindsets behind that? So help them take home something, maybe improve their game a touch.
I mean, I think splits are really hard because it's a decision that you have to make whether or not you want to take the risk. Obviously, when you're 2-2 splitting two very heavily contested areas, or two areas that, you know, every team wants to be at in a early circle, that's something that you have to be aware of. It's something you have to, you know, kind of put in the back of your head that you may get pushed. I think a good way to start doing 2-2 splits is to have one team in a highly contested area that would be normally a very good position, a very highly desired area, and then have the other split somewhere kind of off to the side where it's not necessarily the best, but it's really good for rotation, somewhere that you can absolutely start to move off of and really get towards the next angle of approach on the circle that you want to. And the biggest thing about splits is kind of what I just said, is you want to make sure you're ready to leave at a moment's notice. If you have a full team before crashing you, the best thing to do is to have your vehicles ready in a position where you can immediately back out to the other two members, or one member if you're doing a 3-1 or something like that, so that you can be supported on your way out of a situation where you could potentially lose members early in your team.
And I feel like that's vital. A lot of times you see people overstay, like, I can take the fight.
Wait,
bravery is not always the best option there. Yeah, looks like a couple of shots going on there. We got Radiance doing a little bit of looting. Sonic's rolling by them. Looks like they're finally getting a little bit of distance from Wildcard. It feels like we've been seeing a lot of Sonics versus Wildcard action really early. First couple of circles, it seems like it's been a little bit common today. Maybe this time Sonics might be able to get the pass and be able to get by Wildcard without taking a casualty or two.
Yeah, I mean, last game we saw Wildcard and Radiance just absolutely cannibalize each other. In the end, it was Wildcard that actually came out on top, but I mean, it was at the cost of, you know, two members and basically dying to the blue. So, yeah, I don't know what it's going to take for those two teams. 6 games, time is running out for them. Elusive is another one of those teams that is struggling, you know, very much to kind of find themselves towards the bottom of the leaderboard. This is actually a team that I picked, I think it was yesterday, to start to kind of maybe make some pretty good plays, maybe surprise us with a few placements or a few decent games, but they've just been struggling. And, you know, looking at the roster, it's a pretty seasoned roster as well. Those guys have a good amount of experience. So not sure what's going on with them. On the other side of things, Comets is a team that I actually picked still, and I still believe they're a team that can finish pretty strong in this tournament, but today has been a lackluster day for them.
Looks like we are going to get that center circle. That's going to make it a little bit easier for a lot of these teams. Just got really fabled on the outside. Exodus 303. Our team's up towards the north. Dodge going to have to make an approach. Got to be very careful. As around to Oasis, we might have a small skirmish. As one of the members of Team Clueless posted up over there. But Comets taking very long range vision, trying to use that high ground to get a little bit more out of it. Elusive playing this pretty slow and steady, as Livid doesn't seem to like Livid right now. Going to go ahead and pop them in the back of the head there and punch down Caden.
That's the second team knock. I don't know what is going on with those guys. This is shaping up to be very much like a typical Miramar, though. You know, what we expect with this map. It is a very slow setup phase for a lot of these teams, especially in a circle like this, where you pretty much have the entire west side open. There's not that many teams that are set up in there. Even, you know, towards the northwest and in the east is not that bad. So a lot of these teams just vying for position. They're looking on. They're looking at, you know, where they want to go, where they want to set up for rotations, and it's not going to be too much of a kill-heavy game like we had last time. I feel like we were spoiled in the last game. This one is going to be a little bit of a slow burn until we get to about Circle 5.
You do see that little bit of a skirmish action going on, as it's going to be Sonics taking some shots back over at Radiance, trying to regroup. Pretty long range and taking a lot of damage back over on that angle, but just trying to connect. Nothing's really connected back over with the player inside of it right now, as Batty is just trying to make it over towards his teammates. It looks like he is going to get away with it. Not for all of the effort that Sonics put into it. They really wanted that one.
They did. Unfortunately, they didn't get it. Also, those are really long range shots to hit, so I'm not really going to take that away from them. But this is a man. This roster. It's just a roster of killers that I think are slowly starting to find that cohesion. And once they do, I think Sonics is going to be, I mean, Hypoc obviously knows as well, like, if they can find that synergy, that's a damn scary roster.
Well, I kind of feel that's the thing with Sonics right now and Radiance. They're kind of like the beehive of what's going on inside of this. Perfectly fine, they're rotating in, they're trying to get information, but if you decide to run up and crash their complex, or you really decide that you want to take a fight to them, that's when it feels like they really come alive, and they've gotten really good at territory control. We just have seen people giving them a lot of space, and I think that might just be due to knowledge on how deadly this team can be. Speaking of deadly situations, making a run away from Dodge, trying to catch some airtime, doesn't matter if you connect with a couple of walls, still going to be able to get away with it.
I feel that spray from Crop. It's just desperately. I mean, that distance is so hard to shoot from. I've done that too, so I like seeing
especially
that.
Especially on a motorcycle in the air, man.
Yeah,
it's
I
so
mean,
hard.
like yeah, it's super hard. I'm not at all throwing shade at Crop. I've done that too. So he's just trying to get any one of those bullets to maybe hit. Dodge is a team, I will say, that I again am really impressed with. You know, they kind of started off fairly strong in the first day, and then they really slipped up yesterday. But they're bringing it back, and that's kind of a mentality shift that I wasn't sure if they could do, if they could really kind of reset the way that they have. But I mean, they've done it, and so far they're starting to show that maybe this is a team to definitely start looking out for, not only this event but in future events as well. So I like what I'm seeing from Dodge.
Zenith's been a little bit more quiet today than we have been seeing them in some of the earlier rounds, specifically the past couple of days. Now they're pretty close to center shift coming into play, not going to be too dangerous. Just our people down to the south, but most of them already inside of vehicles. As you can see, Exodus, Fabled, most of the hard shifts, 303 Comets, all quickly hopping into their vehicles. Got a touch of water treatment plant. It's very similar to what we saw last time, so we might be seeing a repeat in circle performance, and that's got to make everybody a little bit wary given the way that we saw it go shoot to kill's favor.
Yeah, a little bit, although it is more north than it was in the last circle. I will say Dodge is very much split right now, and I don't know if they plan on keeping themselves that split, but the consolidation, I think, at some point, if they start to be, you know, poked at or threatened, is probably not the worst idea. And NHS going down to Honey Badger. I believe that was a rotation?
That wouldn't surprise me at this point. We've got a lot of dangerous rotations that are starting to come into play. We've only had really one death coming into play right now, as 63 players are still up. And there's just so many people taking up sections of this. As we're condensing down, there's just not a lot of save points to play, especially towards the center of the circle. It is very hazardous. So all of these edge teams are just trying to play this very slow and extremely cautious.
Yeah, and on top of being kind of talking about the center of the circle, The mountainous area, like the hill around water treatment, is only really playable from like 2 or 3 positions. Even though it seems like it would be, it has a lot of ridges and little nooks and crannies. It kind of doesn't. So if this starts to center up more towards there, I think it's going to be a little bit of a bloodbath towards the water treatment area. But we'll see.
You can see the Exodus trying to set up right now. Got to be careful.
Oh,
don't want your teammate. Wait, what are you doing?
Relax.
Wasting meds there, Taylor J. Poor Venerated. He did nothing to deserve that. All right, well, right next to them is going to be Oath. That's going to be posted up off to the side of this. They have to be very cautious. It looks like, I believe it's Fable that's going to be in a potential point to hold them out as well. So no big rush coming in, but a lot more teams playing around San Martin than we saw in the last game. As really everybody was giving a lot more space.
Yeah, I don't know if I really like playing around San Martin in this, because I feel like it's easier to get into San Martin than it is to get out. And that's just kind of the case when it comes to cities in general.
I agree.
But I mean,
leaving any city just feels bad once it has to happen, you know?
Yeah, it's awful. And again, this circle is a little more north than it was in the last game. It very well could shift the same way it did before, but I think hedging your bets this early on San Martin isn't the greatest idea. But at the same time, with the way luckily the teams are spread out, I don't think it's going to be too much of chaos getting out. We'll just have to see if it ends up shifting towards the city or it indeed starts going a little more north.
We still have a lot of dead space to be played inside of this, depending on how these circles go. And that's why we're seeing a couple of teams moving a little bit more aggressive towards center, hoping the fact that they're not going to have to rotate late. As 63 up, mentioned it a second ago, that is just dangerous. As Dytek looks over this angle back towards Elusive, takes a fistful or a face full of bullets, decides to drop back down, throw some smokes, and try to get those meds back up. But this is a precarious position to be playing from this early in the game.
Yep, and then I think just to my earlier point as well, when it comes to San Martin, is the fact that you're in a. Well, luckily, it does actually kind of shift towards that way. The fact that it's in a bowl. Oh my goodness, Zytec.
That buggy. Yeah, he was like, I just want to drive 5 feet, loses tires, takes a ton of damage, has to jump out.
The helmet's messed up, vest is almost gone. Yeah, it was a very risky little 5 feet to drive. But yeah, I mean, the other issue with being in a city is the fact that you're, especially in San Martin, you're in a bowl, so you really can't see any of the other circle, right? You can't see anything else going out. So, I mean, that's the risk. I'm sorry, just kind of go
Look
back
at the teammate support coming in back over towards Dytek. Beautiful tosses on those smoke grenades. Should give them a little bit of wall to work with. Hard Shifts has opted into playing towards the high ground. They want all of the information, and they want to try to make everybody else's life miserable if they do have to move. But as you mentioned, we saw just a second ago, San Martin starting to get pretty populated. It seems like the new popular place for everybody to start moving, and with good reason. There's not a lot of other good options left in the circle.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, if it does shift there, I think it's easier to get in than it is to get out. So a lot of the teams that were already there are going to feel comfortable. And the teams that are getting in should relatively find some space within the city. But it will start to get a little too crowded quickly here as we go into the next phase, in phase 4, as these teams start to, really vie for positioning within San Martin.
Fable playing back over next to the edge, looking back towards Radiance. Radiance had a rough start inside that last game, getting caught out and really just couldn't get away from, I believe it was Wildcard, if I'm remembering properly. Now it looks like Fable has stepped up and want to make their life pretty difficult, running a pretty split operation right now, as a couple of members of Radiance are far closer to Fable, but the easier shots are those often those towards the horizon, trying to see if they can get some more damage out. Do note the hard shifts are on the other side of that wall, or I should say section of mountain there, but don't really have an easy path over to it, so they're not going to be able to third-party this too efficiently just quite yet.
And it seems like Greg Shot has spotted the members of, I think that's Maluk coming down the side of the face of the mountain, and that's going to be rough. There's really no way back up. And a full team of Fable looking at him. Meanwhile, it looks like Illusion trying to hold the top of San Martin here.
Hard shifts. Looks like they wanted to fight, and J-Sank took a nosedive off the cliff facing. That's never a good thing to initiate into a fight. Exodus looks like they don't want to have anything to do with those Molotovs, and if they were watching anything that happened in that last game, I wouldn't go anywhere near Molotovs right now. Those things are scary.
It's very true. Unfortunate for J-Sank. I don't think he's going to be able to get picked up. Exo, though, Exodus is going to decide to back off. They have a decent position where they're at. They don't need to force anything, especially this early. So I like this play by them.
Couple of shots coming out. Fable opted back down to low positioning. Looking back over towards it, that's pretty brave, and they are going to be able to get away with it as it looks like Fable's making their way back up the hillside. They don't want to tangle in this, and this is a lot of damage going to go back over towards both of these teams. This blue is going to be a problem, and the issue is they still have to move out of here, and this ravine is really the only way out, so they're just going to have to stack on top of each other and run right down to where a ton of teams are posted up as the circle has popped, not favoring shoot to kill, so they're finally going to have to move just a touch.
I really like watching these circles simply because that plateau. Oh, nice shots coming out from Chubba. He's gonna get a flush on Greg shot there. But yeah, that plateau that the circle ends up. Wait a second, Los?
He's still there. He's wanting to do some work here. Does spot out Hella, gets him flushed out as well. Lobes is running back over on this path.
How did he get there, Matt? In the middle of two separate teams solo? What?
Remember whenever we saw it was Fable taking shots at some of the teammates? They ran off. They left Los behind, and Los now has a bone to pick with them. So now Hardshift's slow creeping up onto this. Not a lot of good terrain pieces to play as they've got to climb the top of this hill. Fable might have a sight line back over towards him as well, but Los is just perfectly fine, making everybody's life miserable that's around him right now. Maluk takes a beautiful shot just to ruin Fable's day, and they go out in 16th place.
Nutter butter, dude. That was such a clean shot from Luke.
That was
love to see
just
it.
sexy.
Hate to see it if you are on the receiving end. Love to see it if you're Luke.
Well, it's still continuing on. Maluk just narrowly misses spotting out Los, as Los is leading the way back over towards the safe zone. Got a couple of solos just scrambling their way down this hillside, hoping that nobody's looking back over towards this angle. I think that Los might make it. He did manage to find a vehicle, and Los is just cutting out of there. Now Maluk has to run down, and we just saw shots going back after Los a second ago, so we know if Maluk sticks on this path, he could have some hardships in front of him.
Yeah, that's going to be a very interesting situation for Luke to get out of. Los
I respect it, Livid. Don't let anybody else kill you, Livid. Only let the blue zone and you do it. I don't know what's going on with them, but I respect the choice.
Yeah. Los is actually going to go down. So that's going to be a kill onto Zenith's side as Elusive starts to slowly rotate. They have a nice little ridge here in the corner of the circle, so to speak. This is actually not a bad spot for them to get information from. What I was trying to say is the plateau that the circle is currently centered on it leads to some really cool fights on the outskirts. Obviously, the middle is kind of safe from the very top. It's really hard to advance on that position, especially if a team is fully split out looking upon the different angles. But the fight, I will say this circle, Matt, the fights that we're going to see around the plateau are going to be pretty wild.
I love it because it always makes for those low versus high rotations, how you're going to want to aggress back over. We did see the two solos that we were watching a second ago. Los and Luke both got taken down, so their teams have been eliminated. Alo's peppering in a couple of shots, trying to defend the territory, as it looks like we've got a couple of rotations coming into play. They just want to keep an eye on, see if they can inflict a little bit, maybe get some nice connections onto it, but they might be able to manage to get away from that position. But there are two more shoot-to-kill members waiting in the distance to try to see if they can get some damage off as well.
Well, they just kind of went into a bowl where shoot-to-kill has full sightlines on them, so I don't know if they meant to do that or if they thought it was safer than it was, but I mean, shoot-to-kill now is going to be looking pretty to get quite a bit of damage onto Elusive.
Team Clueless now, trying to spot out Oath. Oath had themselves a rough last. Miramar managing to hold in much longer. Last time new circle's getting ready to pop. Where are we going? We've been seeing fairly center. Gonna stay pretty close to it. So this is where all the fun that you were talking about. This is
what I was talking about. Yep.
This is the good. I like it.
If you're playing, you hate to see it. If you're watching...
Whoa, Exodus and Onyx just get into a firing line against each other. Taylor J. Venerated, Pat Caps just coming up big, and Sonic.
Everyone gets it. You get a kill, and you get a kill. I think Vegas was the only one that actually wasn't a part of that kill extravaganza, so to speak. But Sharpshot actually going to find Venerated, and he's going to flush him. So wild card. In a good position here. If they can kind of take over Exodus's spot, they can really start to wreak havoc and take control on the west side. This could be a very good game for them.
Exodus isn't even looking back on this angle right now. They feel like since they've cleaned out Sonics, they're comfortable over there. Vegas, I think, finally heard what was going on, as there is a very noisy approach coming out from Wildcard Gaming. You can't miss it at this point, but I don't think that there's a lot of reinforcements that can come back over towards Vegas's position, as with the split that's running out, yeah, he's just going to get taken down. The other members of Exodus don't have a clean sight line to really defend based off of third-party shots that are coming in play on this, but look at Keenan opting to play back behind this, shoot to kill, now getting tangled up with Zenith. This is very big, as a lot of these members of Zenith have gone down. Really just kickstart. Last person up for his squad. Dodge also looking like they're wanting to join this party, going for a reposition off to the side of it. Purdy, Curdy, Civ do have the high ground, but it looks like Dodge might beat them to it, depending on how Crop tries to play this. Nice spray coming out. Going to go ahead and take down Reno, forcing a little bit of a reposition coming out from Dodge. I don't think that they want to mess with the shoot to kill that this confident right now.
They don't have a choice.
Out a couple more utility points. Gonna see Molotov come out, and that's an instant retreat back down this hillside, and it's just continued utility flying off to the side. Luke 12 still has to contend with Kickstart off to the side of this. Kickstart's focused in hard on shoot to kill, and that's allowing Dodge just to reposition up this hillside.
Yeah, and this is exactly what I was talking about, Matt. These teams are going to have to vie for control on the edge of these on this plateau, and realistically, it's going to be Dodge wanting to back off in the fight from shoot to kill. A lot of utility being thrown. They're now heading towards a very healthy wild card, though, which I think the south part of this circle may actually be the stronger side to aggress from, depending on where the next shift is from. But there's a lot of room to work with coming in from the south. So if Dodge can now get a leg up on wild card, that could be huge for them as well.
You can see everybody playing very careful. Nobody wants to peek up the top of this ridge completely, because that's when your head pops up and you are an easy target. So everybody showing a touch of hesitation, wanting to make sure that they don't overextend, not too risky. Shoot to kill, still looking back over towards Dodge, but it's going to be Wildcard that does get the down on the Finna. Good toss coming out from Honey Badger, going to connect over towards it. Crop, and a lot of trouble. Reno's still just trying to hold back behind this, but Wildcard slowly aggressing up. You can see playing that low position, trying to see if they can find an angle for this. And it's going to be Luke 12 now finally coming alive. Has managed to meet up with the rest of Shoot to Kill. Dodge is in a very dangerous spot as Wildcard hears this. They want some of these points as well, and they are just running in after this. Crop now the last one up as Molotovs are raining down. I believe he might be on fire as he just narrowly crawls into the smoke. Trying to get the meds back up. Does manage to do it, but he still has Wildcard right on top of him. They don't want to push the smokes though. 7 kills with a potential 8 sitting right there, but it is just too dangerous. Going for the spray as much as they can. Connects a little bit onto Crop, but how much more utility does he have? Finally gets spotted out, and that's going to be Dodge going down with a very patient Wildcard.
Yep, and this is kind of what we've been wanting to see from Wildcard. Instead of a disjointed push or, you know, these plays where they're not on the same page, very much taking their time, making sure they're strangling the team in front of them, especially in the smokes there. Very well played from Wildcard. This is what they need to do for the rest of this tournament if they want any chance of making the top 5.
Oh, Fizzle does get spotted out, making an aggressive push back over towards 303. Voxix trying to play it up on top and does manage to eliminate Elusive there. They do lose Lush during that, a little bit of an exchange, but still a little bit of fights happening on all these different points around this hillside. I think it's back down to the south that's about to get the mess, as Team Clueless is looking back over towards Comets. He actually is taking a lot of damage. Sub-Zero's playing back very far away. Got a nice angle over towards him, but there's just too many little bushes, shrubs in the way. He actually does manage to get the meds back up. Nitrogen hits him for just a little bit of tick damage. Can't peek back around this. He knows he has somebody right in front of him, but just cannot get away from the angle. Patrick's managing to hold this for as long as possible. Finally, a little bit of utility being thrown out from Sub-Zero might give them enough space to work with. Patrick does come up big for that slow, patient play. He's got the overturned vehicle, and he is putting it to work with cover. Sub-Zero's trying to make his push up, but it's Patrick that's defending it. Finally, he does go down. Do have Victor back over next to him. Should be able to get the res, but 303 looks like they hear this. They might be too far away, but they are moving quick to try to capitalize.
Nope, this is what I was talking about. The south side tends to give you a lot of room to kind of play around, and that's exactly what 303 is utilizing. They're taking the advantage of that high ground hill. But wait a second, Sub-Zero, he's going to find a knock on lane Dune.
Let's go, Sub-Zero. He's standing with the line right now. He's doing a lot of work for his team. Has to drop down. Landoon does go down as well. So D-Rich, Voxic starting to make their push back over. The blue coming up right up on top of them. Are D-Rich and Voxic going to choose to continue after this? I don't think that they can. It's a little bit too risky. It's too wide out in the open. And you can see Comets have themselves a nice bit of hillside that they can play. Give them that cover. I mean, you can make the Hail Mary grenade, but It's just a wing and a prayer at this point. I say this as Yaxley moves a little bit closer, is looking for it, and the grenade goes off right in his face, and he goes, nope, I don't want anything more to do with that. Going to push back away from it.
Yeah, but as good as the South is, most of it being cut out, I don't think either of these teams realize that the southwest part of that compound, or really the more southern part of it, is actually fairly clean. I like the reposition from Yaxley, even though he did take... Oh, unlucky. Even though they did take damage from the blue, the fact that they went from this angle, I think, was better than just going straight into the angle that 303 technically had sightlines on. But Sub-Zero going down, maybe not enough life for not realizing it.
McCoy.
It's going to cost him
He's
a
in a
little
bit
bit
of trouble. He's got some Molotovs coming after him, and it's going to be the shoot-to-kill boys that are wanting to throw the throwables inside that shack, trying to get a little bit more space. Does hit a headshot onto Alo to force him away, and Molotov's also going to buy a little bit of space. But right now, it's all about Radiance's McCoy. He's the last guy up. He's been in this shack for a long time, and shoot-to-kill looks like they're thinking about displacing him, but have to be careful. 303's reposition might put shoot-to-kill in their line of sights.
Yeah, it's... Oh, the vault out is pretty good to be able to hit the shots. He does nice shots. Beautiful stuff. Purdy curds.
That gives shoot-to-kill control over almost everything to the north. They got the last round with a huge amount of kills. They don't have the complex this time, but they have a lot of easy paths that they can make back over, depending on how 303 opts into playing this. Wildcard, holding across from them, also going to start their move in just a second, but Purdy Curdy looking back over here. I think he has an idea that something could be happening. He had to hear that firefight just a moment ago, but D-Rich is waiting. Shots come back over. Good connections onto him. Spray is going to come up. That's one of the members for 303 down. Now it is just boxing on the other side, doing a little bit of peek. And no, he says no peek on that. Runs away and wants nothing to do with what's happening over here.
I was just about to say, too, the STK definitely want to start posturing themselves towards the east side of the circle and take control of that, because once they do, they really have control over this whole zone.
Shoot-to-kill's in first. Shoot-to-kill is 2 points ahead of Oath now. They have managed to climb into that first place position off of the kills that they're picking up. New circle pops, and it goes towards Shoot-to-kill. That is huge. They might be able to buy another huge victory with this one. They have been fighting across that northern hillside for so long. Wildcard opts into an early reposition. Between Wildcard and Shoot-to-kill, if you have to move in the circle in a second, it is going to suck.
Yeah, it's not going to be great. It's really not going to be great, as these teams are... really, Shoot-to-kill has such a stranglehold on the circle. I mean, there's so really not a lot of room.
Yeah.
Dude, it's... I mean... The plane really is like the only cover, and even Shoot-to-kill can take advantage of that. It's just this compound. Is the circle going to shift out? Is it going to shift away from the compound, or is it going to shift towards STK? Actually, this is the last circle, I believe.
Well, we haven't had a chance to talk about Illusion a whole bunch. They do have the circle as well. Comet's made a push back over next to the same position where they're at. Wildcard did see the reposition coming out from Comet, so that's why you can see them holding up just a little bit. Nobody's wanting to step out into the open, and you can see Wildcard doing a little bit of a fake like that. I like that. Throw the smokes next to the wall, make them think that they're repositioning over there. Instead, push back around on the angle and see if maybe you can catch Shoot-to-kill a little bit unaware, but 303's box, the last guy up, does manage to connect over back towards Yaxley, but that does give away his position. Talked about Shoot-to-kill being hungry and on the hunt. They take a couple of shots back over towards him, as well as having Illusion right in the same spot. Foxic doesn't have a lot of good options, so sometimes you just got to make the run and make the prayer as you go, and it pays off for him as he finds himself a sneaky little pot to play for just a little while.
I think the only threat to Shoot-to-kill's dominance here may be like some weird north wrap on, I think that's Civ or Luke, up top on the very north side. Otherwise, I mean, that... Man, this could be a farm fest for STK.
Yeah, we can see Wildcard going for the plane right now. That could give them a decent position. Could be defendable. Legion's still trying to play this as defensive as they can. 303's Voxic comes up big. Does manage to take down Comets before he goes down, but big pickup for him, at least buying a couple more position points as well as a kill. And then there were 3. 10 up and alive. Illusion still has control over the building complex. Wildcard's decided to go ahead and take control of the airplane, but Shoot-to-kill has a little bit of a hill to play. And Icy Flex looks like he's got goals. He just runs straight over towards Wildcard, and he's getting away with it. Finally, he does get taken down and manages to be at least enough of a distraction to get Top Dog a little bit of damage back over onto this. Shoot-to-kill's just trying to figure out what the hell is going on with that play. Yeah. Meanwhile, Free Me Please makes the push back on the other side of Shoot-to-kill. Not going to get anything out of it. And now Top Dog, he has a difficult situation in front of him. He's got to run between shoot to kill and wild card, and there are no good options and anywhere to go.
Yeah, this is going to be very rough. I still say if with enough smokes, wildcard could potentially make something work here, but again, shoot to kill's position so strong with the ridges, the little hills that they have to work with. It's going to be two teams fighting for supremacy now. I believe it's a 3-on-3, but wait a second, huge knock!
Purdy does go down. Quick flush
shot.
back over. Civ trying to get a couple of taps back over to where it takes a lot of damage. Has to retreat away. It's going to be Alo running through the smokes, dipping, dodging through them. Takes a little bit of tag damage onto it. Looks like he's trying to get something out of his teammates. Going to be a little bit of meds.
Maybe
trying to run
utility,
forward. Civ does the spin, trying to use the rocks. Barely gets to it.
stacking.
Has the angle back over. Manages to tap onto one of them. Is he going to spot out the second one? He has near on no life. Wildcard Gaming has the angle, and they take that one with authority. 13 kills. I got to say, that was a huge performance coming up from them.